everyone. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to all of you for making it to the final match. I'm sure you've all done fantastically well so far, and I can't wait to hear about the final match. Today I'm going to be giving you guys a few pieces of advice that I think will help you in your final match. I have helped run competitions very similar to the one you're participating in right now, so I'm trying to give you tips that are specific to this competition that you're participating in. So I'm going to get started. The first thing I want to talk about is strategy with words specifically. There's competition strategy and then there's word strategy. So I'm going to talk about word strategy first. First of all, try to know how different sounds are spelled in words that come from different languages. For example, the sh sound in German-derived words is usually going to be spelled sh. If you know any other patterns or rules like that, always follow them whenever you can. Another thing that is something very common for people to make mistakes on is words that end in the sound us. Because sometimes they're spelled O-U-S and sometimes they're spelled U-S. Sometimes they can even be spelled I-S or O-S, and it can be difficult to tell the difference if you don't have a lot of experience with those words. So what you're going to want to do is, and this is covering part of the slide, so I'm going to move it, is ask for the part of speech. Adjectives tend to end in O-U-S, whereas nouns will just be U-S without that O. Likewise, adjectives end in A-L, where nouns will end in L-E. Some examples, like the word dismal is an adjective, and that's spelled D-I-S-M-A-L. However, the word article is a noun, and that's spelled A-R-T-I-C-L-E. Some examples for the O-U-S and U-S thing. You have ridiculous, which is an adjective. That's R-I-D-I-C-U-L-O-U-S. Whereas, again, nouns will just be U-S. And so an example for that would be nexus, which is N-E-X-U-S, because it's a noun. So that's something to keep in mind if you're ever confused about the ending of a word. Always ask for the part of speech. Next, try to identify patterns in mistakes that you've made in previous competitions. So do your mistakes have anything in common with each other? I know for me, I always tended to miss Greek words. I struggled with the schwa sound. I struggled with French words. So if you're able to identify traits in common that your mistakes have, try to learn from them before the final match. Try to, if you're doing any last-second preparation before it, try to focus on those areas that you've made mistakes in before. Next, I want to talk about competition strategy, which is different from spelling the words themselves. It's about how you go through the competition logistically in terms of how to strategize as a team and how to manage your time the best that you can to do as well as you can. So first of all, figure out roles ahead of time. Each team member is going to need to perform specific roles, and since you've already participated in several matches, you should know by this point who has what strengths. Try to assign roles ahead of time that play to each of those strengths. If you already have roles that you've done well with, just keep them. This is your final match. You've won everything so far. You don't want to change the roles now and then have that backfire if they're already working well. So make sure you have roles planned out ahead of time in a way that makes sense and plays to everyone's strengths. In team spelling competitions, there are events where speed is the most important factor. I know one of the games is speed spell, where you have to spell as many words as possible in 1 minute. This piece of advice doesn't apply to games like speed spell, but for other events where speed is not the most important factor, remember that quality is just as important. Quality is just as important as quantity. That's what that's supposed to say on that slide. Don't go too fast just because you want to get to the next word. Go at a reasonable pace so you don't make a mistake you could have avoided. For example, when I was 7 years old, I was in a spelling bee and I had the word zigzaggedness, which is spelled Zigzaggedness. However, when I received the word, instead of slowing down and asking questions and spelling slowly, I was eager to spell my word fast so that I could be done with my turn. And I opened my mouth to start spelling, and I accidentally said the letter S where it wasn't supposed to be. If I had slowed down, I totally would have avoided that mistake. So just keep in mind that it's just as important to go slowly enough to spell your words correctly as it is to go quickly enough to spell enough words. My dad would always tell me, slow down to speed up, and I think that's really true. If you go at a steady pace that still allows you time to really think through what you're doing, that's going to help you a lot more than just spitting out letters immediately. Lastly, don't underestimate the value of information. If you're able to ask for the definition or the language of origin or part of speech like I mentioned earlier, or for alternate pronunciations, if you're able to ask for anything like that, do that whenever you can. I have talked to a lot of students who feel that asking questions is a waste of time because they don't feel that they always get useful information out of it. And I understand where that's coming from, because there are a lot of words where the definition doesn't give you a clue to the spelling, or the language of origin does not give you a clue to the spelling. But if you just never ask questions because of that, you're going to miss out on the times where the answers to those questions will help you. So again, whenever you can, ask those questions. You never know when they might help you. Lastly, I'm done with my tips ahead of the competition. Please use those to prepare in whatever way you find useful. Hopefully they were helpful to you. But I want to talk a little bit about lessons for after the competition, because ultimately the event that you've been participating in for these past couple of weeks, yes, it's been a competition and you've been trying your best to win and you've been doing really well at winning so far, and that's fantastic. But it's about more than just this event. There are lessons that you can take away from this and go forward in your life and apply those lessons. And so you're learning other things from this. And so I want to talk about that a little bit before I go. So ultimately, you're here for fun and not to win. If you win, that's great, but the most important thing is that you learned and you enjoyed yourself along the way. You spend this time preparing and competing with your team, and I really hope that you enjoyed spending that time with your team, bonding with each other and hopefully having fun. If you had fun along the way, that matters far more than whether you end up winning this final match. From competing in this, you likely learned about poise, work ethic, time management, etc. Work ethic goes into preparation for these competitions. Poise is very important when you're speaking in front of other people, and time management is especially important in the team spelling bee games because you're on a timer for almost all of the events. So, given what you've learned about these, apply them to your life going forward. They'll help you in just about every field. For example, I haven't competed in spelling bees since I was 13 years old, and I'm 17 now, and every day I still use the time management and poise and work ethic that I developed from competing in spelling competitions. So it's not just about the lessons that you learn from this aren't just about the spelling bee. They can be applied to your greater life, and I really hope that if there's one thing you take away from this, it's that, because it's not just about spelling. It's not just about words. That's great, but it's about work ethic and sportsmanship and all of that. And so just make sure that you really reflect on this experience and see what you can take with you coming out of it to have better experiences in the future. Lastly, this is the very last thing I want to say. Pay attention to how winning or losing makes you feel. and how you act in response to those feelings. Many people have very extreme emotional reactions to winning or losing, whether that's of joy or of sadness or anger, and their actions might not necessarily be appropriate for the situation. I know this was something I struggled with when I was younger. I was really, really bad at taking losses. And sometimes sportsmanship can be really hard to learn, but it's important that we accept both outcomes, both winning and losing, with grace and with politeness. If someone beats you, if you lose to someone, congratulate them. They worked hard for this too, and they deserve the recognition. If you beat someone, if you win over someone, if they lose to you, you should congratulate them too. Because, again, they worked hard preparing for this. They did their best. They put themselves out there in a tough competition, and everyone who participated deserves kindness and recognition. And I think that's the most important thing, is learning sportsmanship from this. And it's not really even just about sportsmanship. It's that every individual deserves to be treated kindly and with recognition and with compassion. Even if they're people you beat, there's no need to gloat over them or brag to them. And if you lose to someone, there's no need to talk badly about them, because everyone has the same goal in the end, and you're not competing against them. You're competing against the dictionary. And that's, at the end of the day, the most important lesson. Lastly, I just want you to believe in yourself. That's the most important thing. When you get into your final match tomorrow, I just would really love it if you all felt confident. You've been preparing for this. You've been doing well so far. No matter what the outcome is, you've proven to yourself that you are capable of doing great things. And that's really important to keep in mind as you go forward. So, that being said, best of luck, and I look forward to seeing how your match goes. Bye!